All right, welcome to a special edition of TOSAs Talking Tech. Mike and I are here today to talk about our podcasting workflow. And we get this question not a lot, but a couple times, like how do you do it? Like what's the process? And so that is why we are here today. And that's why we're cutting the intro short, because we don't want to take up too much of your time. So Mike, are you ready? You ready to tell them how we work this magic?
Let's explain the magic here.
Okay, here we go. So the first thing that we do is we plan. I would say, we have some tools that we use. We use Workflowy. Before, I think it used to just be a doc going back and forth.
Yeah, this is our new favorite.
Our new favorite's Workflowy. We have a joint email for the TOSAs at Bassett, and so we just signed up for a Workflowy account with that.
So it makes it real easy for us to share the same account and go back and forth.
Yeah, and so we just put all our notes right in there, and it's basically a bulleted outline form.
It's very Google-like. Very nicely laid out, simplified. And if you can make an outline, you can plan a show. And so that's what we do. We both drop ideas, and I'll show you on the Workflowy, or you're probably looking at it right now. On the Workflowy, you could see that we have different shows and ideas, and you can mark when they're completed, and it'll cross it out and stuff like that. So we like it, and that's where we do most of our brainstorming. And where do we get these ideas from, Mike? A lot of it is Twitter feed, what's current in ed tech for us, what articles we read, people we talk to. We
also get ideas from other podcasts because, we make one, so we listen to them. We get inspired by a couple friends out there that are putting podcasts out. And, they have some topics or ideas, and I think our audience would really like that. And so we poured it over. And whenever we've done that, we've given credit because,
And it gets us started. We can explore even more. If they just touch upon it, we can go deeper with it and find out everything about it.
Yep. So inspiration from all over. Because we are TOSAs Talking Tech, we want to focus on that tech in the classroom piece. And that's, we keep that focus pretty narrow because we think that's what our audience wants. And we've gotten good feedback from it. So we try and narrow it as much as we can.
So scheduling time for this, how do we do it?
At the beginning, I think we scheduled about an hour and a half to do.
You were ahead of me on this. You started a podcast before me.
Yeah, I did. And I when I did that podcast, it was very scripted. I wrote almost everything down that I wanted to say because I found that going off the cuff for me, especially when there wasn't somebody to play off of, was difficult. And it sounded better technically if I was following notes more closely. And we did that at the beginning. We were very scripted. We did.
I asked you to. I'm not sure.
And it's that scaffolded instruction type thing, right? Let's take baby steps before we start running.
But it didn't sound very comfortable. It was a little mundane.
It was a little stiff.
Yeah.
And we were new. Yeah. And hey, we were kind of feeling it out and working it out.
But you need that when you get started with anything. You need structure. Until you get used to it, you get the flow going.
Once we started cutting the structure, it became a lot more natural, a lot more flow and conversational tones started to happen. And so now we just go with an outline.
Yeah, and we became used to each other. We knew where each other was going, when we'd stop and when we could jump in.
Yeah, so for the hour and a half at the beginning, I think it's now, we shoot for our podcast to be about 30, 35 minutes. And that's about a 45 to 50-minute show.
It's our goal.
That's our goal. Sometimes we go under and it's like, okay, well, that's fine. And sometimes we notice we're going over and we're like, all right, we might have to split this up. And so we do.
It depends what's going on in the district and what we're working on.
However much time you think your podcast is going to run for, you want to schedule about double that time. So at the beginning, especially when you're just getting used to it.
And then part of that scheduling is our run-through time.
Yes, which we do next.
Yeah. And we practice. We do a little practice with it. We go over the show notes.
Yep.
We get comfortable with it.
Hey, what are you talking about here? Hey, when you say that, remind me to mention this and stuff like that, just to make sure that we are both on not only on the same page, but it's fresh in our minds when we start going through it, because these show notes might have been made a week ago, or sometimes depending, like if we have a big show coming up and we know we want to gather resources for it, it might be the notes are about a month old. So it gives us a refresher so we don't sound like we're reading and it's a little more fresh.
And we're not talking a full show here. We're talking a 5-minute review.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 at the most if it's a big show.
It also helps me get the levels on the equipment to make sure that they're right, to make sure we're not coming in too hot or too soft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right after that, I make sure all the music is queued up. I use iJingle Pro. It's an app from the App Store. I use it on my iPad Pro. I have that screenshot. It's on there right now. I can store at any one time on the screen, I think it's 35 different sounds. But each of those rows can scroll up and down. So I can have like 20 different sounds in a row and scroll to it if I know where it's at and hit it and it'll come up. And we don't use sound effects a lot. Every time when we do a name drop, it'll be something like, just because we think it's fun.
But too many sound effects can distract a show.
Oh, yeah, it can.
You don't want to do
And there are people that do sound effects really, really well, and they incorporate them well. And one person that does that is at the conference, John Ike, his podcast. Oh, yeah. He does a great little short podcast, and we wish we were more like John Ike in every way.
He's got it going.
Oh, yeah, he does. But, I queue up the sounds. So we have our... in the red or most of the long ones that come in with the promo. I have the outros and stuff in purple right there. And then some sound effects all over the place. I think I use 5 of them.
Yeah.
So not too many.
And it's nice on the app. It's organized. It's mobile. It's small. We don't have that much space here.
And what I like about having it on the app right here is we can, as we're recording, add them. And I don't have to go back in post-production and do it. We try and do a show from beginning to end in one take with as little additions that have to happen after as possible, and that allows us to, I think, push more content out. Because if I had to sit there and wrestle with putting another sound in, a multi-channel mixer, let me fade this one in, fade this one out, make sure it's there,
it's too much work.
Yeah, I like the flow that we have right now where we play the intro, it gets us psyched for doing the show. It really, that Pavlovian, hey, we're getting ready to do a show. And then I manually do. You can tell on some of our outros, the outro voice is a little bit higher or lower at times. It was me dialing in. Yeah. And so, I try and up and down. Yeah, I try and do all that live, which you can do on the app. So it's pretty cool.
It saves time. It saves a lot of time for us. And the nice thing about that app, it's touchscreen. You don't hear keyboard clicking or anything like that in the background.
And there are different controls. Like if I want to fade one of the sounds out as we're talking about it, I could totally do that just with a touch. And that's a lot easier than having to go in and manipulate it digitally.
Yeah. Multitasking.
And the next thing you're going to do after you do a run through and everything is set up, please hit the record button. Because we've gone through about 10 minutes of a show, I think twice.
Wait, stop.
And I'm like, oh,
are you recording?
Hold on.
Oh, no. What did we say?
All right, that was a great practice. Let's go ahead and do the real thing.
Oh.
And I did it when we had a guest once, and I was like, oh, my God. So hit record. Even if you hit record, I hit record early sometimes.
Yes, you do.
And Mike's like, are you recording?
He never tells me.
And every once in a while, you'll catch a gem at the very end of our podcast where it's just
a hidden Easter
egg, yeah. Or it's some us laughing about something or just something ridiculous going on. And I'm like, I got to put that in there somewhere. So we throw it at the end. And then you record your show. And like I said, we try and go one take. Yeah. And it's easier if I mess up to pause for a second and then start over with whatever sentiment. See, I could probably cut that and redo that with a pause, because when we pause, I could see it on the editor and just cut from there.
Because we really don't have a lot of time for editing or recording the show.
No, yeah, we want to make sure
maybe have an hour.
We're as time efficient as we can, because there are other things we have to be doing.
Yes.
So we've really, I think, got the process down to something that if I pushed it hard, we could start, record, edit, and publish a half-hour show within an hour, easy.
Yeah.
And so that's good for us, because it's not eating up a huge chunk of our time. That wasn't like how it was in the beginning. I'd take it home that night, I'd edit it, and then we'd come back. But we needed a lot more editing then. And now, as we're getting a little bit more into the flow,
it does get easier.
It gets easier.
And if your podcast becoming a big time drain, then it's not going to continue. You need to find shortcuts.
And we've streamlined it to where it works for us. So I've played the last little outro. I've done all the voiceover. I've fixed that. And then I hit stop on the recorder. And in the back of the Roland right there, all I have to do is pull the SD card out and put it in my MacBook Air. Yeah,
you could hook it up digitally, but the SD card just makes it.
And there are mixers that can actually plug directly in via USB or FireWire to your computer. But then I'd have to be managing stuff and looking at the screen
and all that.
And while we're recording, and I don't have to look at a screen here while I'm recording unless I'm looking at iJingle Pro real quick, because the editing happens post, and I don't have to worry about, hit a marker here, or, I got to go back to that. We just do it. And you know what? Sometimes when we really mess up and I'm like, okay, well, hold on. Let me put a marker in. My marker is clapping in front of the mic, and it sounds something like this. Watch yours.
Hold on.
Mike. Yeah. And right there creates a huge spike on our software that we're editing with. And I can go to that spike right there and know. It's the same idea of the clapper at movies.
Yeah.
You know, the little action and you
black
have
and white stripes on the top. And
that's used to match up sound to video.
So you can see that spike on the screen.
You can see the spike visually also on the audio. And so what they do is they line up that real sharp spike with the closed clapper, and then their audio is synced up. So that's just an easy way to put markers in. A little tip and trick right there. After I put it in Audition, we use Audition. I like Audition. I started off using Audacity because it was free.
Yeah.
And I didn't know whether or not this was really something that was I wanted to do more. And so I'm like, I'm not going to go and drop. I think it's like $300 for Audition.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? Let's not do that now. Plus, Audition was a little more complicated. Audacity, it's easy to cut. And you could even record in both of them. But we could record your digital. So you import it. It looks like all kinds of WAV files. I cut out all the ums and the ahs and the oohs. Although not as many now because we're getting better.
Yeah.
And tighten up some of the spaces where there's too much of a gap, or we pause to, talk about notes. I cut that stuff out. But it's not, like I said, it's not as much as before. And I can probably get through a full podcast in about 3/4 of the time that it takes us to record it, because I don't have to listen to the intro, outro. I make little notes at time markers when we have a little mistake, so I can just jump right to those.
And we don't do as many segments as we used to.
No.
We'd break it up. We'd do the front part last and the back part first.
And with recording all at one take, that helps because it's already in order. I use Audition now.
Yeah.
And we have an Adobe license through our work. They gave us, we wanted Adobe Reader and all that. And I told them, hey, I need Audition for my podcast. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's included within your subscription.
They already had it going. So
all you got to do is download it. And I was like, yes. So the first thing I did with Audition is I went out and paid for a tutorial because I wanted to make sure that I was using it correctly. And it was a podcast tutorial. I'll put a link in if you want. It's kind of pricey, but I figured if we were really doing this, it was going to be worth it. And so I got some secrets there, like when I say filter, don't think Snapchat filter or Instagram filter. It's not like that.
No, it's audio.
What it does is it's an audio polishing, and it brings up some of the lows or the highs and levels stuff out and make sure you're not going too loud, and make sure that I don't have a guest on whose voice is really low or soft and then ours is really loud, because I hate that. It auto levels all that stuff for us, and it's well worth the money I spent on the tutorial.
Yeah, it creates a nice balance.
And I think it makes us sound better. We sound polished.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think that's an important part of getting out there and being serious about it, is having that nice sound.
And then the next part on the ID3 editor, very important for your show. If you want to get it out there, you've got to put tags in there. You've got to be able to be found.
Mm-hmm. One of the big things when I started listening to podcasts is if you don't edit your MP3, it will look plain, and you won't get cover art when you download it in things like Pocket Casts or iTunes.
Blank screen.
Yeah, it's just a music or a blank screen, and we didn't want that. We have a whole session on marketing and branding, and that's part of building that brand and making it recognizable. And so we really wanted that cover art to be there, and we really wanted the ID3 tags to populate, like, who is this? The show notes are in there too, so when you're scrolling through either iTunes or whatever podcasting app that you use, you'll see the notes and you'll see what it's about.
And the first time you do this is the hardest work. I mean, once you've got everything saved and the process, it goes really quick.
It goes really quick. All I have to do is select it. It's got a little drop down for the tags I've used before. And so things like artist and album and stuff like that, TOSAs Talking Tech, it's already there. All I just got to do is click on it and say, yes, 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 that's it, that's it. And then we want to tag it for education, and then we want to make sure it's clean, and because we don't say any potty words on this thing. So
yeah, and certain hosts require you to do this.
That's right.
You have to.
You have
iTunes
to say whether it's clean or not. So no, we are not explicit. We are very clean. We're explicit in our instructions, but not in our language.
No.
And then the last thing I do is I upload it to our host. We go with Libsyn. Why? Because when I first started and had my own podcast, that's where I went, and I liked the aspects that I had of being able to see statistics.
Yeah, there's some nice data in there.
Yeah, because when we're doing this, the first thing our boss asks us is what? Well, how many downloads getting?
How many?
And how do we know that this is reaching who we want it to reach? And what do we know, your audience and blah, blah, blah. So we want to be able to come back with those and show that, yes, people are using this as a resource. Yes, what we're doing provides a service. We're
getting the word out there about the district.
Yeah, and because we do some of our stuff or most of our stuff on district time, we want to make sure that it's being heard and stuff like that. If this was a side project where Mike and I were just meeting,
we'd be
outside
doing
of school and
over the air, and
it would be a lot different. And then after that, after I upload, I hit publish, which is almost the same button. And then we go out and promote. We tell everybody, hey, we got a new episode. We think you'll like it. Why don't you go ahead and listen? That's really the process. It sounds complicated now, and you're thinking, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff. Once you start doing it, though, it becomes a rhythm.
Second nature.
Yeah, it becomes a lot easier as you keep going.
Yeah, it's like saving your password on your computer. Once you have it in there and everything, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and our suggestion to you is just get out there and do it. Do a couple of them. Do 3, 4, 5. I think the magic number. I think I've heard Briggs and O'Donnell talk about like 7. Like that's the threshold. Like if you can get to 7, then you're doing fine. And it's that push to get to 7. And we were stuck on like 5 for a little while. And I'm like, no, we got to do it. We got to do it. And Mike's like, oh,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. And I'm like, but it'll get easier. Trust me.
It's nerve wracking.
And so now today we're probably going to be recording with 34.
Yeah.
In a year and a half. So our release schedule has become a little bit more constant now that we're a lot better at what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we've tried and we've seen the bump on Libsyn in our subscriptions and our downloads when we're more consistent.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so we want to provide that as well.
And it helps to gain a following. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. If you have a schedule out there and people know when it's out, when it's coming.
We try and publish Mondays, Tuesdays. We do it during the day so that maybe for that ride home on Tuesday or the ride to work on Wednesday, you'll have a new TOSAs Talking Tech ready to listen to.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that consistency will keep you coming back. I think that's going to be it for our
workflow
video today. If you're seeing this, it's probably because you stopped by our session at Q. So thank you very much for coming by our session. We hope you check out the rest of our podcasts. We're going to have one that I'm releasing that's going to say, start here first or listen to me first. So that we can kind of welcome you and then talk about the rest of them and then maybe get into some new stuff for Q. If you were a part of our broadcast or recording, you'll probably hear yourself on there.
Yes, definitely.
We definitely want to be introducing and bringing people on to talk about what kind of stuff they see podcasting doing within their sphere of influence.
Yeah, and definitely just go for it. No matter what level of equipment you have, just give it a try.
Yeah, and so check out some of the other resources that we've put up on the site, on this resource page. They are all here for you. And remember, if you have any questions, we are always here to answer them.
Yeah, you can reach us at edtosas@bassettusd.org. That's edtosas@bassettusd.org.
Or if you want, you can comment on the page that you found this, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. So, may your tech always be working, may your tickets be answered quickly, and may you remember to save to the cloud frequently. From the Dog Pound at the Bic, this is Tom Covington.
And Michael Jeffcott saying goodbye for now.